one, waiting, oddly enough. I'm waiting for the iPad to come because I'm waiting for it to come up on my phone and it's not happening. Okay, you can probably tell that I am terrible at waiting. I am awful at waiting because I'm very impatient. Hurry up, Ian. Thank you, my man. There we go. Hey, see? Waiting. I am really bad at it. And a few people after Mass always respond, I wouldn't take you for a patient man. And I said, just 5 minutes in the car and you will find out very clearly that I am not a patient man. So whether it's waiting in traffic or waiting at the grocery store or waiting for a restaurant for a table, the thing that I struggle with most about waiting is that it's kind of boring, right? Waiting is boring. How do young people usually deal with waiting? Exactly, Donna, exactly. They're on their phone. They're doing this, right? So whether if you've ever been in a waiting room, that's why they call them waiting rooms, because you wait at a doctor's office or perhaps your dentist. You know, you sit and you wait and more waiting, and then they call people's names. And I think everybody, when they hear a name, they sort of look around and say, okay, who's that? Like, who's next? Okay, because I'm getting close. And I think sometimes there's a conspiracy going on because sometimes they call a name and no one moves. And I have this theory that I think that people wait so long that they get sucked up by a vortex. It's like a waiting vortex, and they disappear, and we never see them again. Does anyone share that conspiracy or that theory? I was, a few weeks ago, I had to go and get my license renewed at Access Nova Scotia. And tell me if you do this. I go in and I sort of assess the room. You know, you got to read the room, right? So I get there and there are 3 wickets open. And there are 6 people in front of me. So I figure, okay, it's about, on average, probably about 10 minutes per person. Okay, I think I'm going to be out of there and gone within 30, maybe 40 minutes. That never happens. I always wait much longer than that. So is that me, or are some of you like that too? Okay, I'm not alone then. You're just as weird as I am. Waiting is hard. I think that for me, waiting is a time waster. In a sense that you can't do anything. You can't go anywhere. You wait and you sit. How are you at waiting? You know, do you accept the fact that waiting is just part of it's system. It's a fact. It's just you got to accept it. Whether you're in traffic or at the grocery store, you wait. And it's part of life. Or are you like me where you like to get in and get out, get things done, keep it moving? Waiting for me is a bit of a time waster. Today we celebrate the last Sunday, as Father James mentioned. It's the last Sunday of the liturgical year, of our calendar year in our church. So we celebrate Jesus, and the official title is Our Lord Jesus, King of the Universe, often known as Christ the King. And we hear this from St. Paul in our second reading. He talks about Jesus, and he says, Jesus is firstborn of all creation. All things have been created through him and for him. Christ is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Jesus is the Alpha, and he is the Omega. But then something kind of odd happens this morning. In our gospel, we hear about the death of Jesus on the cross. Did that strike anyone kind of odd? Is that an odd gospel for this morning? Anyone, that catch you a little by surprise? It caught me by surprise when I was spending the time with the readings. Why do we do that? Why do we listen to the death of Jesus on the cross with the 2 thieves, one on either side of him? Why do we do that? Why do we do that? The reason is that in 5 weeks we will celebrate the birth of Jesus at Christmas time. If Jesus is the Alpha and the Omega, we must, as a manager of mine often said to me in my working life, begin with the end in mind. Jesus came, was born to die. That's why he came. He came to die. He came to die for you, and he came to die for me. As Jesus stands before Pilate, he says, if you recall the Passion, he says, "For this I was born. For this I came into the world, for the salvation of all nations. I came to testify to the truth." Jesus, our King, came to die for you and for me. And Advent is full of hope and excitement, but it's also meant to be a penitential time for us. It is a penitential season. Starting next Sunday, we will wear purple. Purple is a sign of suffering and sorrow, which is, again, a little different for a time of Advent when we are to celebrate the birth of Jesus. But we are to think about why Jesus came and why he was born. We sang the Gloria this morning. That'll be the last Sunday that we will sing the Gloria until Christmas Day, until Sunday the 25th. So there's some things that we notice as a change in the Advent season that differentiates between normal time and Advent, but also more to the point of it is meant to be a penitential time, a time of prayer, a time of recognizing the death of Jesus and also his birth. The word Advent comes from the Latin word adventus, which means arrival or appearance. And it's important that we keep in mind the twofold meaning of Advent. We hear the penitent thief again in our gospel because he reminds us. It's there for a reason. He reminds us of why Jesus comes because he says, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Advent is a time of penitence. And Jesus, of course, says, "I assure you, you will be with me today in paradise." It is a reminder that we need Jesus' mercy and we need his grace. So Advent begins next week. It's 4 weeks of waiting. Are you ready for 4 weeks of waiting? So I thought instead of being a time waster, and 4 weeks of time wasting, I thought that we might be able to take the time and use it to our advantage and make use of the time. So I wanted to give you 5 suggestions about just some things that I thought about that we could do in Advent to help us prepare both for Jesus' birth and his death. So 5 ways to spend Advent wisely. And the first one is to make an Advent calendar, particularly if you have children or grandchildren. I remember as a kid the Advent calendar, and you would tear the little perforated doors off and you would get a chocolate in behind. And I know many of you had the same thing when you were growing up as kids, and I hope you still celebrate that with your children and your grandchildren. You can make them. We used to make our own, because that way I could put out as much chocolate in behind each door as possible. I like that. Now, I took a picture of this. It's a Reese's Advent calendar. They still refer to it as an Advent calendar. We don't hear the word Christmas as often in our world as we would like, but we still use the word Advent, which I think is tremendous. So I saw these at Sobeys, so I took a picture of it. The second might be to make an Advent wreath with your family. And this afternoon, we actually, over at the school gym, we're going to invite families over there to make an Advent wreath. And even whether you do an Advent calendar or an Advent wreath, it's always great to pull out the Bible, perhaps read a piece of Scripture with the kids, or get them to read it if they're able. There's so many beautiful stories about Christmas and as we approach Christmas in the Bible. So whether it's Mary and Joseph as they travel towards Bethlehem, or the 3 wise men, or Mary as she visits Elizabeth, there's opportunities for us to teach our children about Christmas, but certainly about the larger part of the season of Advent. So I offer those 2 to you. Third one I thought about is maybe just attending weekday Mass. If you're able to come to weekday Mass every day, if that's possible, but I certainly recognize it's not always possible. But there are some wonderful feast days and days of celebration between now and Christmas. Obviously, we have the Immaculate Conception. We celebrate the Immaculate Conception. In Advent, we have Our Lady of Guadalupe, our own parish feast day, which happens on the 12th. We have, it's an optional Mass, but St. Nicholas is celebrated on the 6th of May. St. Andrew is celebrated on November 30th. And I know that there's some St. Francis of Xavier fans, people who have gone to the university. We celebrate his feast day on the 3rd. So there's lots of opportunities. If you can't get to every weekday Mass, perhaps picking a few of the feast days and days of celebration during Advent that you can come and celebrate daily Mass with us. And then the other one I might suggest is either spending time with the daily readings if you're unable to get to Mass, or just getting out the Bible and just reading the Bible, perhaps praying the Rosary or the Divine Mercy Chaplet, something to keep in mind that penitential part of Advent, an opportunity to spend time in prayer. And then the last one, which is really obvious about the penitential part of Advent, is reconciliation. We will have a day of reconciliation on December the 2nd, all day from 9:30 till 6 p.m. here at the parish. We'll have priests, local priests, so an opportunity to come and have confession as we do approach Christmas Day. So that's December 2nd, all day from 9:30 to 6 p.m. So I offer those just as an opportunity to enter into the beauty of Advent, because things move so quickly, particularly as you approach Christmas. If we can take that waiting, that forced waiting, and just turn it into something positive and beautiful, that would be a good thing for all of us. Advent is meant to be a time of preparation for Christ's coming, both his birth and his second coming. So the first Sunday of Advent is a week away, next week, but unfortunately, you're going to have to wait for it.
Let's stand together now as we bring our prayers of petition to God.